Okay, stick with me for a second. Imagine pulling a supercharger from an AMG V8 and locking it in the same room as a big old Borg Warner, asking them to get along. Can't quite get there? Okay, maybe start by telling a Mustang owner he'd be better off with an LS swap. Feel that friction? Yeah, okay, we're a little bit closer. That's kind of what's happening at all times under the hood of Kyle's Toyota Soarer. It's a little bit crowded. Wow, this is a lot. This is a lot, you guys. I already have PTSD just from looking at the parts list on this car. Oh wow, we've got parking cameras too. What do we got? 1J Soarer. It actually seems like I've driven an incredible amount of 1J cars recently, which is true, I have. But this one, I promise, is so different. But what we have here is a Frankenstein build strapped to a T56, a Ford rear end, drive shaft shop, custom drive shaft. But what's so special about it? A 1JZ in a Soarer would be like, oh, that's a good GT car. That's exactly what this car was built for from the factory. It's luxurious. This one has in fact, a synthetic suede or Alcantara. Very strange actual feel to it. Nothing that I've really ever felt. Headliner, but it's a GT car. It's incredibly comfortable. But this one kind of carries that build ethos, for lack of a better term, that the general idea of what the car was built for originally from the factory to the next level. So under the hood, 1JZ GTE, it's twin charged. Not only is there a Borg Warner S366 billet internals up there, which would be enough, which would be like, okay, we're creeping up towards 400, 500, 600, 700 horsepower. I've seen a couple cars easily make with the S366, but he's strapped, Kyle, the owner of this car, has strapped a Mercedes supercharger on the intake side of the 1JZ, of course. Wow, there's boost. Holy, that's power. Wow. The T56 is so incredibly robust. I know a lot of people don't. Yeah, there's full boost, like 5,000 RPM. A lot of people don't put T56s in Japanese cars like this. A lot of people feel it's maybe sacrilege, or they just have a funny feeling about doing it. But here it works. The throws are so short. You really have to be consistent with your ability to shift the car. You guys hear that? There's a switch here in the center, and that turns on the supercharger. Wow, that is incredible. That is incredible. And then of course a blow off for that, the largest blow off valve I've seen in my entire life. What happens is, of course, the idea of a twin charger, a twin charged setup, is to basically eliminate turbo lag. Like, that seems like a great way to go on a build like this, because you want big power, but if you want to be able to keep the use case for a GT car on the street for a daily driver, you might want to, cut down on your turbo lag. So that's exactly what Kyle's done here with the supercharger. So there's a switch. Effectively, the supercharger is on and the clutch is engaged with the belt to provide a boost at low end, to provide low end torque. And then at a certain point, once the turbo has enough flow, then the supercharger disengages to prevent, or to take the load off basically. And then the turbo just takes over, and then it operates effectively as a standard turbo car would. That's remarkable. This is a Frankenstein build. There's Ford parts, there's Mercedes parts, there's all these like clashing heads underneath the skin of this vehicle, just fighting for dominance and fighting for superiority. And so far, So far, it works quite well. Now, Kyle didn't want to be on camera for this video. I know a lot of you guys sometimes comment, hey, why isn't the owner on every video? Well, I ask everybody who has a modified car, not factory, but a modified car, if they want to be on camera talking about their car, and not everyone does. But this car so far is dayliable. It is definitely stiff, which you kind of need with big power to eliminate a lot of that dive. So the supercharger comes from a 5.5 liter, like an E55 AMG type. Wow, 60 miles an hour, no problem tearing the tires off. There's a little bit of a delay. It hasn't been quite tuned properly with the supercharger. It just so happened that I told Kyle, I'm like, hey, I'm coming to the island. Well, I talked to Blaine at Carmena Performance, and he put me in touch with Kyle. Was like, hey, I built this car, and it is crazy. You hear that? That was the changeover. This is the nuttiest Toyota I've ever driven in my life. That's so weird. So let me just clarify, when I say the supercharger hasn't been tuned quite properly, I just mean the initial 0 to 5% throttle application could be ironed out a bit. For a car that's only been on the road for a couple of weeks though, what you're witnessing is more of a shakedown test drive than anything. As you guys just heard, there's no torque dip, no valley in the power band. It just opens up the drivability of what would otherwise be a laggy, big power, yes, fully built 1JZ. The more time I spend around this car, the more I smile and crack up at the thought of what's going on, right? I can drive it like a V8, shifting at 4,000 and have great torque around town, or we can shoot for redline. Truly Jekyll and Hyde. The gas pedal is from an STI. The ITBs, yes, look closer, are pulled from an E60 M5 V10. And of course, yeah, that math doesn't add up at all. So Kyle found another spare to make it 6. Okay, sure. That makes the drive-by-wire setup work with the Link G4, which for us purists takes away a little bit of that raw throttle cable feel, but for the sake of tuning, I feel it's probably worth it. Then on the other side, there's a GM electronic throttle body just before the turbo. It's closed at low RPMs to prevent supercharger boost from getting out. Yeah. So loud. Torque is ridiculous. Without the supercharger, yeah, it feels like a 1J with maybe, and that's on low boost too, around like 450, 500 wheel. I mean, high boost, the supercharger just instantaneous torque. I think that's probably why the T56 feels at home here, because the torque is very much on tap. I mean, it's smooth down low. It's not what I would call, like, it hasn't turned the 1J into a V8. All right, let's roll on 4,000 RPM, full throttle. Wow, long gears, incredibly long gears. Honestly, a little bit long for my liking. You need a crazy stretch of road to really get going with this thing. Very easy clutch, very light clutch for how much power it's taking. He's got a Link G4, of course. I do like the Link display though, it's very simple. I'm not sure if this is customizable or not, if you can kind of change up what I'm looking at here, but coolant temp, we've got oil pressure, AFR, it's just your basics. That's all it's really showing me right now. And the tach, and then of course my speed. All right, we're going onto a tighter road here, so I won't be able to really wind it up too much, but I will try my best right here. We'll do second gear, we'll roll on. Wow, squirrely. Yeah, Kyle told me before I drove the car, it's okay until it is not. That's an accurate depiction of this car, Kyle, I would say. Wow. I mean, the rear end is so stiff, so taut, and that LSD is so aggressive. And the tires paired up are very sticky. Wow. That it's okay until it's not. Luckily, it's gonna be okay in this video. So basically in the Ford rear end, and God, so confusing. Like I said, very conflicting parts going on here, but the rear end houses inside an OS Geiken 1.5-way differential, very aggressive. And then in the interior, everything's been redone. This car's been effectively, what Kyle did is he did a full top-down restoration on the car after it was crashed. So he repaired a lot of things. He's a body and paint guy, so he did this metallic paint on here. He also redid the dashboard, which looks insane. There's all this nice stitching here. What looks factory, like a modern take on what Toyota might have done back in the day for this car, but a modern take on it. And then we've got some carbon fiber bits everywhere. No gauges on the top of the dash here. This is a hardtop model. Actually, I don't even know if they made, I'm assuming they made a sunroof model of the Soarer. Also, these beautiful Sparcos. Love these seats. They're a little bit big for me, but for anybody else, they might be pretty much perfect. And they do recline, of course. Despite my subpar fondness for the Z30 platform and its OEM aesthetics, I can't help but thoroughly appreciate and praise the passion Kyle and the guys at Carmena Performance have put into this car. Yeah, sometimes a stripped interior, fixed back seats, and just a laser focus on the road ahead is what my spine wants, but I can actually breathe in here. I'll take that today, please. You guys can already see it, but just take a look at the stitching, the materials, and everything else that doesn't make it onto the dynograph. There's no doubt to me, this is someone's dream car. There's only a handful of cars that really make it to this level of fit and finish, especially now in the age of TikTok and Instagram and short attention spans. I hate it. And I don't have to tell you this, but this is not a weekend project. And on the other side, not only would it be enough that it was a 1JZ with a billet S366 under the hood, but when you combine the two, I'd imagine, first of all, it creates a lot of problems for heat. There's a lot more heat, that's just a fact, going on underneath the hood. But as well for maintenance, with a guy like Kyle, the brief time that I've spoken to him so far, and Blaine over at Carmena Performance, who actually installed my Link G4 in my MR2 when I had that, when you have the guy to kind of go back to and kind of calibrate or retune or repair anything that may have gone wrong, then you have that. But with a car like this, you need it. You absolutely need that. This car is unlike anything I've ever driven before. The fit and finish of the interior, zero squeaks and rattles. I mean, let's just take a moment to enjoy Toyota's build quality, to appreciate the Toyota build quality that we've come to know and love versus a lot of Nissan products from the same time, which the same cannot be said for. It takes your breath away. It really does take your breath away. I mean, aside from a couple drivability tweaks here and there, I think it's a great build. I think this is a crazy idea, super cool, insane build. From the outside, considering what's under the hood, it's a little bit of a sleeper. You know, RPF 1s on the outside here, just an all-around clean car, very clean car here. I'll be the first to admit, there's an element of flashiness to it all. Like, how much of this is just shock value and how much is actually adding to the real world experience? I'd say it does exactly what it set out to do, and that's both. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out Kyle and Carmena Performance. Their links will be in the description. And of course, our 1JZ jet tags are on our store, roadsuntraveled.com, along with an entire collection. So be sure to check that out if you'd like. We will see you very soon.